My name's Mary Lee. I represent Darnell Ward and I chair the LAC in this area. Before we start the meeting, I just want to hand over to Democratic Services who will talk about the arrangements for this evening.
Thanks, Chair. Please, can I request that mobile telephones and other such equipment are switched to silent mode as to not disturb the conduct of the meeting. There is no fire test planned for today. If there is emergency evacuation, please take instruction from the council staff present. The toilet facilities are situated outside this meeting room. The meeting today is open to the public and will be streamed live for subsequent broadcast via the council's website. You should be aware that the council is a data controller under the Data Protection Act. Data collected during this webcast will be retained in accordance with the council's published policy. By entering the meeting room, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting. One final thing to mention, we also have hearing loops available. If you would like to use one, please let us know. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Could I ask members and officers to introduce themselves? And I'll start with Zahira.
Hi, my name is Zahira Naz. I'm the councillor for the Darnell Ward.
Hello everyone, my name is Diane Hurst. I'm an elected member for Richmond Ward.
Hello, I'm Shoned Meyer-Richards, councillor for Manor. I don't usually wear the bling to these meetings. I have to go on to another engagement at the Medina Mosque afterwards, so apologies for looking a bit flash.
J. Bell, Democratic Services Officer.
Sarah Stevens, Youth Voice and Influence Manager.
Hi everyone, I'm Nabila Maulana. I'm the councillor for Park and Arbethorn.
Councillor Mike Gravel, elected member for Richmond.
Thank you. Before we proceed with the agenda, I think we need to remind people that we lost one of our members shortly before Christmas, Councillor Anne Murphy, who was a past Lord Mayor of Sheffield and member for Manor Castle Ward. She passed away just immediately before Christmas, and it came as a great shock to everybody in the LAC, officers and councillors. So before we start proceedings, I'd like to start with a minute's silence for Anne, and then Shoned, the Lord Mayor of Sheffield, is going to say a few words. Shoned was Anne's colleague in Manor Castle Ward. So can we please rise now? Make sure your phone's off, and we'll do a minute's silence. Thank you, everybody. Okay.
I think everybody who knew Anne will recognise that she was a complete force of nature, and to meet Anne was to love Anne, and to know Anne was to love Anne, and also be extremely irritated with her from time to time, because Anne works in a way that nobody else does. So I would just talk about a friend who Anne asked to go to a meeting with her, and when she got to the meeting, Anne turned to the friend and said to everybody else, "Oh, and by the way, this is Jane, who has agreed to be the chair of this organisation for the next 12 months, leaving poor old Jane." Sort of thinking, how did Anne get me in here? And before she knew it, she'd agreed it as well, because Anne made you want to do things for her. Anne, as a Lord Mayor, was just simply amazing. everybody who I now meet out on the, the chain gang circuit, everybody just says, oh, and did you know Anne? Isn't she amazing? And you sort of say, yes, yes. And everybody remembers her and all the people that she worked with, whether it was Sheffield, home of football, or whether it was Ben's place, or whether it was Kickback Recovery, or whether it was, just a whole myriad of organisations. Everybody knew her. She had been particularly involved with the HMS Sheffield group and making sure that Sheffield remembered those people who had been on that ship and rebuilding the links with them. And she was also just a great person to go and have tea with. As her sort of designated chauffeur, because she didn't drive. Amazing how she got everywhere on buses. But usually I'd end up driving her home, and then she said, do you want to come in for a cup of tea? And I'd say, I don't really have time, okay then. And then we'd sort of sit and chew the fat, as it were. And she was just a lovely woman. She was without side. What Anne said, Anne meant. And sometimes that meant she said some home truths to some people, but she always got away with it because she was Anne. And I'm just missing her terribly. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet, and I think you speak for all of us when you with those words. We'll get on with the meeting now. So on the agenda we've got the usual business, and then we're going to have a report from the East Loss manager from Huda on the our spending plans for the year, and on the community plan, and then we've got a presentation from the young people who live in this ward, in this area. Public questions. We've got public questions as well at some point. So first of all, do we need to exclude? Have we got any apologies for absence?
Chair, I've received apologies from councillors Terry Fox, Sophie Wilson and Ben Miskell.
Okay. Do we need to exclude the press or public? Okay. Any declarations of interest from members? No. Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting, can we agree them? This is just for members to approve. We'll take a vote on that, please. Yes, agreed. Okay, thank you. So any public questions and petitions? I don't know if we've received any written questions, no. And I can't see anybody putting their hands up, which is good. It's always a bonus. Oh, one. Yes, sorry.
Years. I'm part of Tuesday for I did the show start service when they were doing show start, so I've got involved in Tinsley quite a bit, but at the moment in time I feel as though Tinsley needs a bit more attention paid to, and I think it's been left to one side. So that's what I'm here for today, to represent Tinsley and all parts of Tinsley, not just women, and men, women, young, old. Oh,
is there a question?
The question is, why are we not getting much funding into Tinsley?
We're going to hear about the money that the LAC has got to spend, and some of that money will be going to Tinsley. We have a ward pot, and some of that money, people in Tinsley, groups in Tinsley can apply to that ward pot. Obviously, we've had the new school in Tinsley fairly recently, as things like that go. We regenerated the park some years back. I know that Councillor Naz has been involved in ensuring that there's a gym in Tinsley. That happened before COVID. I know it was stalled during COVID, and I'm sure she would like to see it up and running. If it's not up and running again, I'm sure she would like to see that up and running again. E.ON, we negotiated a fund with E.ON when they built the biomass plant a few years back. We negotiated a £25,000 a year annual grant from the E.ON company So £25,000 goes into Tinsley from that particular funding every year to be spent on, I'll just finish, on local groups. And we have just had one spending round with that money. So that's some of the funding that goes in. I can't remember all. I wouldn't be able to recall all the details, but...
New library.
And a new library. Shauna has just reminded me, there was always a plan to build an associate library in Tinsley because, as you know, when we closed some of the libraries, the one in Tinsley was in a shop, it didn't belong to the council. We had to ensure that we had a building. The Tinsley Forum was an obvious choice. They were up for it, and although it was delayed before Christmas because of COVID, it has now been opened. I think we put about £65,000 of council money into that library to set it up. All the books were brand new, and they have an annual grant to keep the library, help to keep the library running. But every area in Sheffield always needs more money. We can always do with more money and more funding in every area in Sheffield, including Tinsley. I don't know whether there's a hearer you want to say anything about that.
Was actually done by local people, Asian women that wanted some facilities. The show stock got set up because of European funding, and that was funding from the European, and that got built up, and then obviously the school got extended on top of that. And then the forum building, that was done in the 1985, where the funding was still coming from Europe, and the forum building is Tinsley people that actually did that funding and got that up and running again. The advice service, there's a long history to that. Tinsley people got involved with, people like Chris Goddard got involved with. What I'm asking is there any facilities or worker in Tinsley to build Tinsley up? It's a deprived area. Tinsley has gone back 20 years. I know the library's there, the structure's there, the library's in there, but there's nobody actually to develop the area. The library's there. They want the advice centre up and running there because we have got problems with language barriers, we've got problems with the doctors, so there's nobody actually to put things together in Tinsley. I'm not saying Darnell gets quite a bit, but there's a lot of groups running in Darnell. They've got the sport, and I know they had a development worker in Darnell, but in Tinsley, it's got left to one side. Tinsley people have got the funding for the Tinsley one-stop shop that got built, so with no credit to the council. And then there's the Shawstart building, that was Tinsley women that pushed for that and got that done, but obviously Shawstart went down drain. So, and there was a lot, because my own personally, I was involved with getting that school set up and doing everything. I was involved unpaid hours to do that, and people in Tinsley are burning out because they're saying we don't get no facilities. And we've opened a child group, right? To get the women in there, right? But the point what I'm trying to make is we're not actually getting funding for any paid worker to be in Tinsley, whether it's youth, whether it's to get the groups up and running. And that's not just like, even the doctors, they can't even get an appointment. So we've had all these issues. So we haven't really got any paid worker that's doing any core work in Tinsley.
And therefore...
I'll let Zahira come in now. A lot of the things you say, I know we're local people in Tinsley were partners with many other agencies in order to get the school, in order to get Sure Start, which has gone because of austerity, gone because of the government that came in 2010 who installed austerity across the country and in Sheffield as well. But I'll let Zahira speak now.
Thank you for your questions, Nassim. I think you bring up some really important issues regarding the LAC funding. So Huda's going to do a report on the LAC funding in a bit. But I have applied for some money for a warm space for the men, and it came out from that public meeting that you guys also attended. We've also set up the women's group, which is running pretty strong. You know, we get about 30-40 women attend each week. And last week, you were at that meeting and we spoke about setting this group up as a constituted group so they can have their own bank account. And that's one way of applying for funding to come into Tinsley for women to do the activities that they want to do. Currently, you have Tinsley Forum, and I think Anne is working in the library, she's the employment worker / community development worker, but we've also asked the question around community development workers and if the SIL funding can fund that. And we've had conversations about that. So I agree there's definitely a need for a community development worker in the Tinsley area. But also we are empowering the local people, especially the women in Tinsley, by setting them up as a constituted group so that they can then apply for funding themselves. And that work is ongoing.
Obviously, you sound as though you were, obviously you know Zahira very, very well. She said you were at a group last week that is now going to be constituted, so we can see how that develops. Okay. Yeah, that's right, Zahira. No. Good. So the chief for the slack spend, 22-23.
Yeah. So if I can draw your attention to page 17 in your packs, agenda item 7. Members will have received this already. So this report sets out the details of the spend of the 100,000 that was being allocated to each of the LACs, and it kind of just gives me authorisation as community services manager in consultation with the chair and according to the delegation granted in September 21 and June 2022. Just briefly, if I can again draw your attention to page 20 of the report. Those people that attended our, continue to attend our public meetings, you might remember I presented a report in June last year, and in the report what we did was we outlined our proposal in terms of spending the 100,000 that's been allocated to us. And as you can see, we proposed at the time to allocate 50,000 to spend on children, young people, projects around health and well-being and social behaviour and so on. 20,000 was going to be allocated to projects around the environment, and then 20,000 was going to be allocated to projects around dealing with issues around communities and neighbourhoods. That left us with £10,000 that was unallocated, and that was going to be spent on projects or any other issues that we've not really taken account of. So since last year, myself and the local area committee have been allocating this money in accordance with what we agreed on. So on the priority children and young people, what we've done is we've allocated £10,000 to each of the LAC wards. So each ward, there's 4 wards in each LAC, received 2,500 to spend on projects and match some of that money specifically around children and young people. We also funded Saturday clubs, as we called them, in each across the 4 wards, and that came to a sum of 20,000. And then we were also allocated 20,000 to funding community organisations to support work with young people around antisocial behaviour. In terms of the environment, what we did there was we gave each of the LAC, each of the 4 wards, £5,000 to spend on environmental projects. And then for the communities, again, we awarded community organisations and agencies across all 4 wards to support residents and communities, but specifically around the cost of living, but also to run activities that tackle loneliness and isolation across all age groups. So turning on to page 22, that leaves us the contingency. Out of the contingency, we've spent £3,000 just for our running costs, things like printing, hiring public venues and so on. That means that we've got £7,000 that's been left, and that £7,000 will be spent in accordance and in agreement with the local area committees. That's about it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we need to approve this? Or yeah. So
Sorry, I should have said the recommendation is that you need to approve the report.
So can members approve that?
Yes, we're asked to note it, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Craig.
Yes, Craig.
Thank you. So I'm Craig, I live and work in the Manor area. Just a question on the children microphone. Sorry. The priority is called children and young people, yet all the money is being spent on children 10 plus, so young people, when the council already invest heavily in a youth service. My question is, what resources are being given for the under 10s? As a director of a community nursery, they're really struggling. We're not getting any extra funding. I work with children aged 4 to 11, and trying to get resources for them has been near impossible. The only activities within our area for that age group are led by volunteers that are really feeling fatigued from constantly having to do it for free when they see our peers and youth getting paid to do the work. It'd be nice to see that priority either change to young people or some money spent on actual children, and not just young people, please.
So, Craig, I sent you an email, haven't I? And I've offered to meet with you, and I think we've got a meeting time in February to kind of talk about the issue raised. I mean, it's me that approves the funding members take it. Money left to decide is when we meet.
Carrying each chaired by one by myself. Social behaviour to it was a very on the funding stream that we had. But I take your point that younger children, the children that you look after, also need funding. And we know we're in dire straits across the council, not just across the council, but with the government as well. But anyway, we will have further discussions with you, Craig.
Is that okay? Hello. My name is Ted Talbot. I'm from the Green Estate. We look after Manor Park and Sheffield Manor Lodge. I'm really interested in the priority on the environment and the £20,000 that's gone to deal with fly tipping. We do our best, and we're really proud to work to green flag standards. So we deal with the fly tipping on the parks and green spaces that we manage, and we try and work with other statutory agencies. You know, fly tipping is a crime, and putting money that's under the banner environment to deal with it just feels to me like the environment's actually missing out. Is there any way we can do this slightly differently and make sure that the people who are responsible for green spaces, for example, where fly tipping happens, or people who are actually committing the crime of fly tipping, can we enforce that better, get statutory agencies and others to do that, so we don't have to put money for the environment into that? Thank you.
Okay. Just to clarify, each LAC area had £100,000 given to it for fly tipping and litter and graffiti. And of that, I think about £43,000 was kept back centrally to pay for legal costs and officer time, and the rest of that 57k for each LAC area, which is not a lot of money when you consider we've got 4 wards, was for fly tipping hotspots, to deal with fly tipping hotspot around the LAC area. The £20,000 for the environment that we've reported today is £5,000 has gone to each ward to spend on environmental projects that they wish to spend it on. Now, I'm not quite sure what other wards are doing, but in Darnall we've given that £5,000 to a project in High Hazels Park to go towards the cost of equipment. They've got £100,000 from public health to spend in the park. We've given them an extra £5,000 to fund an extra piece of kit in the park. So other councillors might want to say what they're spending their extra £5,000 on, because I'm not quite sure. And they may not have decided yet, but they will be spending it on something other than fly tipping. I haven't got numbers, I'm sure we have, but I haven't got numbers and I don't do the prosecuting. But it's very, very difficult to prosecute. We might get somebody here to tell you how difficult it is to actually prosecute somebody, take it to court and get a magistrate to actually find somebody appropriately.
Right, hello and welcome everyone. Hello and welcome in the different community languages that we have spoken in Sheffield today. I just happen to speak Arabic and it's salam alaikum from me. Local area committees. If you've ever been to our previous public meetings, you will have heard us talk about local area committees. There are 7 local area committees across the city. The reason they were set up in the first place was to promote local democracy. It's an opportunity for local people to influence decision making, to ask questions, and it's also to kind of make positive changes in their communities. We are the East Local Area Committee, and we cover 4 wards, as you can see: Park, Arththorne, Darnall, Castle, Richmond wards. Who are the members of the Local Area Committee? These are the members, your local councillors are here today. I know some of them are missing. We've got a small team, myself, my colleague Abby Wilson, who covers Darnall and Richmond ward, and my other colleague Sophie Wilson covers Park, Arththorne and Castle. We've got Ella, who does 2 days a week for us, and also Amir Hussain, who's our LAC officer. If you want to know more about local area committees, there's lots of information on the website. There's a YouTube video, and there's also one for British Sign Languages as well. In terms of... Moving on to the next one. So when we first launched the local area committees, approximately nearly 2 years ago, we did a survey and we asked residents and community and voluntary sector organisations, we asked them, what is it you want local area committees to focus on? What are your key priorities? They said, these are our priorities. Environment, I have to call them themes because they are massive issues, and we talk about environment, it's everything under that heading. Community safety and crime, communities and neighbourhoods, children and young people, transport and highways, health and well-being. So, as Mary explained earlier, each LAC was given £100,000 to spend on making sure that we implement those priorities, and you will have heard from my presentation, the spending plan, about how we've allocated that money. You know, the 50,000 that's gone to the children and young people, the 20 for environment, the 20 for communities and so on. So that's already currently happening. That's an ongoing piece of work. Now, in terms of what else are we doing? Obviously, that's just one strand of funding from the 100,000. Members have access to other streams of funding, community infrastructure, levy money, SIL money, and also ward pots. And what we've done there is members working with services that are responsible for the environment, highways and transport. And just to give you some ideas of the work that we've been doing, we've talked about fly tipping. Fly tipping in certain areas is a massive problem for us, and we've done days of action. But we're also working with some of our colleagues in different services around how do we get some of the funding from SIL to increase road sweeping, for example. The people have told us that actually when they want to report fly tipping, it's quite difficult. So we've been working again with colleagues around, the Fix My Street app to make it a bit more user-friendly.
In terms of just road safety, we've been working with the road safety manager around effective travel plans, which is, I've just found out that some schools can get accreditation in terms of encouraging cycling and walking and so on. And that's something that we're working on. And like Mary said, we've allocated money for wards for them to spend on environmental projects. So, for example, in Darnell, like Mary said, some of that money is allocated to High Hazel Parks, and some of it can be spent for buying equipment and so on. So the way that we've organised ourselves in the LAC is we've set up working groups with those services that are leading in those areas of work. So for the environment, highways and transport, we've got Councillor Zahira Naz chairing that working group with Vice Chair, Councillor David Barker. In terms of community safety and neighbourhoods, again, what we're looking at there is we've invested some money again. Some councillors have requested to pay some of that money to buy CCTV cameras, and there are some installed across some of our wards. At the moment, we're working with our business advisors and Business Sheffield around making sure in the next round of the Economic Recovery Fund that businesses in our areas apply for that money so they can benefit from that fund. We've also held road shows. We did one in Darnell, we did one in Arbourthorne. But what we're thinking, we've learned from that, and we're thinking actually what people have said to us is organised more community events in local areas and invite services so that communities and residents can understand better what those services are kind of delivering. Again, with this, we've set up a working group to kind of make sure that those priorities are implemented across the service areas. And the councillor that chairs this working group is Councillor Ben Miskell and Councillor Diane Hurst. And then for children and young people, health and well-being, again, I've already mentioned the Saturday clubs that we've helped fund and set up. We're working with Opportunity Sheffield to make sure that young people and people in general are accessed to training and employment and apprenticeships. We worked with the East LAC Youth Councillors. The East LAC Youth Council has been elected by young people working in this area or living in this area. And we've asked them from the day they were elected, they met with our members and they said to us, we've got 3 priorities that we want to work with you on. One was vaping, the other one was transport, and the third one was sexual harassment. And we've taken this serious issue, and we've invited our colleagues from youth services who are going to do a presentation about the work they're doing around tackling sexual harassment. And then that's an ongoing piece of work for us. We're not there yet. And again, for the vaping and in general health and well-being, I think it's fair to say we've not really delved into that too much yet, and we're meeting with public health to kind of find out a bit more about what work they're doing already in the East area and how we can make sure that they're taking seriously the issues that young people have raised. And the working group there is chaired by Councillor Mary Lee and Councillor Anne Murphy, so we probably need to elect somebody else. And finally, just as a photograph of the youth councillors when they met with our members last year, and like I said, we're not there yet. We're still working with the youth councillors, and we've actually allocated some funding from our LAC fund to kind of carry on that piece of work. Here is just a photograph of Pinder's Dance. It is really popular. We've had some really good feedback. This is a Saturday group. It's free, and it's attracting quite a lot of people young people from Arbourthorne, I think. And again, we've got DESA that we funded as well. DESA is a volunteer youth club that operates in Darnell, and they open every Saturday for boys and girls. And I think some of the young people are here in the back. All right. Sorry, did somebody ask me a question? Yeah.
I think more than one time you mentioned Darnell. Where is Tinsley? There's nothing in Tinsley.
Right.
Yes, Saturday Club, Darnell. There's the dance club is Darnell. What about Tinsley?
Not Darnell, it's Arthur.
All right.
Yeah.
What about Tinsley people? What about Tinsley children? They are on roads, they are in park, vaping, even not vaping, it's night crime. Lots of night crime and other criminal activities under young people. I have not seen anything. Wonderful this presentation. I'm really, really happy in some area getting, but we are very poor. I think as a Tinsley, no one is accepting. There is nothing. I've not heard anything for Tinsley. Shall we just
answer the question? Should we answer the question?
Right, so what we did when we put out like an application form, we sent it to all our networks, and Tinsley was very much a part of that. And we asked people to apply for this funding, and then we gave them the funding based on their application. It's not to say that we're not prepared to look at what else is needed in the area and work with our youth services as well to kind of think about what else do we need. And we've allocated some funding as well to in Tinsley to kind of work on that. And I don't know whether
I was just going to say, did Tinsley Forum not apply for a girls' youth club or a mixed youth club on a Saturday?
It is happening, and we've allocated, I think, £3,000 for that, and that's ongoing. It's stuck in the process, but it will be released soon. And that's something that they're going to organise.
Can we just say there's £3,000 for a young people's youth club on a Saturday in Tinsley, and that's similar to the ones we've just described before. We've got a lunch club that we've given £2,000 to set up a lunch club for a men's lunch club, older men, and we're quite flexible about it. And we're looking to give Tinsley Forum some money towards their warm space in their library, because they've got a great library down there. It just needs a bit more, another radiator to make it as warm as it could do, because it's anyway, won't go into all the details. But so that is the money. There's £100,000 for 4 wards. So that £100,000 has gone towards 4 wards in the LAC area: Arbourthorne, Manor Castle ward, Richmond ward, and Darnell ward, which includes Tinsley. So there's been a proportion of that money has gone to Tinsley, and a proportion gone to every other ward.
Like you said that Tinsley people can apply. What about Tinsley people? They're not educated people. There is lots of, even they can't speak English. Who can apply? How council can help us?
Right.
So we can apply for Tinsley.
Yeah. So
people. That's why we are not getting anything yet.
Right. So one of the things we've been talking about with members, and I think Zahira mentioned it earlier, is about there's still money. There's other strand of money to look at whether we can employ a community development worker. That's something that members need to consider and agree on. We've piloted it in Richmond, and we've seen how that works. And if it works in Richmond, there's no reason why we can't take it to other areas. So it's something that we can look at. And just one final thing, my colleague from Youth Services said that there are, Youth Services operate Youth Club 2 nights a week in Tinsley. So I don't know whether you're aware of that.
I know that. There was not any adult people. There were the children, young people who just mess about that youth club. My child was used to go there, but I was not sending any more because there was lots of mess about. If anyone who can take the responsibility for that club, running that club, and they can look after children as well, so that will be fine. The other thing, just the last question about the road things. The Sheffield road. I was telling Zahira lots of time about, I don't know who is responsible for that. There is no right turning for Tinsley people. You just cut off Tinsley people. When you're coming from New Road of, from Meadowhall, we have to go to other people. We have to use other people's driveway and then coming 3.10 and coming back, or we can go to the Rotherham roundabout and then coming back. Why? We are not paying tax. Why are you cutting us off? Yes.
Can I just answer that question, because we are deviating from this plan now. This is a totally different question, and I'll just tell you briefly. We met with officers as it happened last Friday. Zahira was with us. We met with Clyde Betts, with the highways and transport officers, and they talked about a possible solution for that corner, which I know is very difficult for people in Tinsley. Really difficult for people in Tinsley. And we saw some really dangerous driving as a result of that. There is a plan. It needs designing up. It's not easy. It needs a full a consultation, feasibility study, and design, and to be designed correctly so that the buses can turn right at that particular junction. But it's not there. We're not there yet, but we have got now a plan in the process of being developed. It's being developed. So I'll just leave that one there. because this is quiz question, and I want to open it up for everybody to ask questions, and this is about the community plan for the whole of the LAC area.
Finally, for us, I mean, I didn't really cover all the work that we do as an East LAC. There's lots of work that takes place in Darnell through Abby and Ella and Sophie. If you want to get in touch with us, if you've got any ideas about how to make your local area, have a positive contribution, these are our contact details. By all means, email us, contact us, and we're happy to meet with you and have those conversations. Not a problem. Okay, thank you for listening to me. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Huda. Okay, so I think we should now move on to the next presentation. And Sarah Stevens is going to take charge of this, but I just want to say, Huda mentioned the Youth Parliament and the Youth Councillors in our ward. There's a picture, I think we showed a picture of them with councillors that was taken last year when they came to present what they wanted to do to the local area committee. One of their issues was harassment, sexual harassment in particular, and we know that is absolutely current at the moment. We've seen it in the news over the last few weeks, few months, few years about how women and young girls are affected by this. We're wearing a white ribbon today, and the white ribbon signifies that we will not tolerate harassment for young women or girls, and the council has become a white ribbon status council. And I think Carl, our leader here, the head of service for the LACs, is a champion for this particular project. So anyway, I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who's going to talk about the video and what was behind it, and also we'll then following on from that, I think we want to do some break into groups and maybe discuss that further, but I think Sarah will explain what she wants you to do.
Thank you, Mary. Good evening, everyone. Like I said, my name is Sarah. I'm Youth Voice and Influence Manager for Community Youth Services. I'm here tonight to tell you a little bit about what we do in relation to violence against women and girls. I'll say right from the off, normally I do very colourful, powerful presentations because it's such an emotive subject. I haven't done that tonight. It might be uncomfortable for some of us when we're listening to it. The first time I saw the film and sat and talked about various things, I was uncomfortable. And I'll point out at what part I mean about that. It's got to be discussed, though, because it is a big issue, not just in this area, this LAC area. It doesn't matter whether you're from Darnell, Tinsley, Richmond. It doesn't matter whether you're from Dore or Totley. This is what young people are telling us is an issue right across the city. So I think before we go on to the work that we're doing, it's key to understand actually what do we mean when we talk about violence against women and girls. I'll probably say girls and women because I always put them back to front because to me the girls come first. But violence against women and girls is about anything emotionally, physically, sexually. It can be financially. It can be words. It can be actions. It can be at home. It can be in the workplace. It can be on the street. Anywhere. It can be inflicted by anyone. It can be people we know. It can be strangers in the street. What I'm going to talk to you about now, and when I go on to the film, it's generally about people who are not known to the young women. So I'm not going down the domestic abuse route because I could, stand and do a presentation around that another night. But tonight we're looking at street harassment and sexual harassment for young women on our streets of Sheffield. I've been today with a group of girls who have been talking to ITV. So we've been interviewed by Calendar this afternoon. And what they were saying is that all of them have been affected by this and how it affects them. And actually we had to stop filming because, again, it was bringing up things that had happened previously, but it impacts them not only at that time, but further down their life as well. So it is a real key issue to look at, especially for young people's emotional health and well-being and mental health. So I hope you agree with us and with the East Youth counsellors as well that it's got to stop and we've got to do something about it. We launched a film, and I'm going to come on to the film, but White Ribbon Day was at the end of November, just before Christmas, and there was a massive campaign. Mary and Hudder, I'm really impressed you've got your white ribbons because they're like gold dust. We are trying to get more. There's not many about, so I hope everyone in this room can say, we know what the red ribbon stands for, we know what other colours are. Everyone in this room will at least be able to go home today and say, we know what white ribbon stands for. And it's a campaign especially, and again, I'm going to make no bones about this, we are not feminists, we are not anti-men, we are not anti-boys. It's about education, and unfortunately, a lot of that harassment to girls and young women does come from men and boys. I've got to say that because that is fact, okay? So by wearing our white ribbon, we said that we promise never to commit, excuse or remain silent about male violence against women. And it shows our commitment to working together to achieving gender equality. Some of the actions that as a council, as a city council, what we've undertaken are we launched the first ever Women and Girls Nighttime Safety Charter. That's about practical steps, training and resources to support organisations, businesses and venues to tackle that gender inequality. And, we want to make Sheffield a fair and inclusive city, and everyone has a right to feel safe. And so that's what this is about. You might have heard about Ask Angela. So for some of our young women who are old enough to go out into town, go to their local bar, if they're getting harassed by anyone in the club, they can go up to the bar and say, can I speak to Angela please? All the barmen and bar staff, venues, door staff have been trained to know that that is code word to say, I need help. We want to get out of here. So Angela is a fictitious person, but basically it's code for I need help, I'm being harassed, or I feel unsafe. And then we've got we've got a citywide Violence Against Women and Girls Forum, and that is made up from people from all walks of life. Some are professional, some are people at home, but who have got for whatever reason, personal or professional, a vested interest in ending violence against women and girls. Sheffield City Council, I'm a champion as well, Carl, so we're in good hands, I hope. We want to get that message out there that we are an accredited white ribbon provider, and we will never excuse or remain silent. And I hope when you watch the film and see how powerful it is, that we'll all take that on board. So how does youth violence and youth voice, how do they marry up? So we know what violence against girls and young women looks like. So what does youth voice and influence look like? So what we do is, we are qualified youth workers. We are youth and community workers. So we work in local communities, and our role is all about listening to those young people and then acting. So not only listening, but hearing them, and then doing something about influencing services, organisations, whatever it is, what needs to be influenced to make positive change. So that's all about empowering young people, supporting them. We've got the youth cabinet, we've got a police advisory group, we've got young people with SEND who have got disabilities, just got out of my head, special educational needs and disabilities. We've got advisory groups for them, we've got seats on our youth cabinet where we've got young people who are elected in, but then we've got a seat for young people who are in care. Young people who are young carers. So it's all those hidden voices as well that we try to get. So it's not just about shouting loudest. And we ensure that we've got the mechanisms and structures in place to support those, from decision making, sitting with the leader of the council, Councillor Terry Fox or Kate Joseph, talking about what they want to see, to actually talking to their peers in their school. So that's the width and breadth of it. Our context to the work, what we're doing around the sexual harassment, is we run a group of young people aged 13 to 21. They're all young people who they might have been, involved in. We've had some young people who've been involved in gangs. We've had young people who are wanting to be police officers. We've got young people who just want to make a difference and make their communities better. And they all come together and they work with us in partnership with South Yorkshire Police. And that's all about ensuring that those communication channels are open. So it's making sure that the police listen to the young people and the young people listen to the police. And we've got that mutual understanding that ultimately we want to make things better. So we've got that project. They started talking about sexual harassment. It was just after COVID. We couldn't meet in person in a room. We were sat in Weston Park outside the bandstand, and we were all 2 metres apart, scattered about, trying to have this conversation. And a young person just started talking about what had happened to them, and basically, put a label on it. It was sexual harassment. As soon as that opened that can of worms, in a sense, other young people started talking about it. The Youth Cabinet, we start doing those elections in November, ready for February for them to come into their term of office. They have to go, think about the issues that affect them, and then actually do a manifesto on it. The amount of manifestos that we got, so we've got a cabinet of 45 young people. We had, I think it was about 60, 70. I'm looking at Emma, who is the coordinator of cabinet in my team. 100 applications. Thank you, Emma. Who, in one way, one shape or another, had put sexual harassment or domestic abuse or violence against girls and women. There was something in there, and we thought, hang on, let's marry these up and let's do a joint project together. So we did. In March last year, we had a residential. Am I right in saying it's March? Yep. Short-time memory loss. In March last year, we came together. We had a residential, and we took the Youth Cabinet. We had the police come along, and we've teamed up. If you just Google My Pockets, is a filmmaker. But he's a bit more than a filmmaker. To me, he's a bit more like a youth worker with a filmmaker. And we do workshops around these issues, getting the young people to really think about it, really draw out. We just don't want to do an information film about sexual harassment. So what is it, what we need to do, what messages are we getting there? And I think one of the biggest things what we're coming out is, for years, as women, we're told, change the way you dress, change the way you behave, change what you do. No, that's got to stop. What we've got to do is educate people so it doesn't start basically. So we did a film, and it's called Be That Mate, and it's made by young people, for young people, and communities, and schools, and for me, it's for everybody within this city, within this region, and within this country. Throughout the film, you will notice that the girls in the film are talking to boys and men. And we recognise, and they recognise, that they're not the only perpetrators, and it's not every man. And, we've got some fantastic young men in this city. And we want more of them, and we want them to be part of the solution. So we had some boys and young men involved in the film. They started telling us about their experiences where they were, protecting their friends who were young women. If they were being harassed, they'd surround them. and lots of different stories were coming out. What I'm going to do is show you a film. It's about 4 minutes long. It's quite a powerful film. And then I'm going to tell you what's happened as a result after that film and where we are and how we need your help to continue this project going forward. So the aim of the film was educate the peers, open up discussion around the issues in their schools, in their communities, at home, in your families, and then empowering people to be able to tackle the issue. Yep. If we knock them front lights out, we might, yeah.
We're a bunch of teenagers.
Lily.
Munira. Lisa.
Ellie.
Roz.
Eden. Daisy.
Nazara. Yelena. Neve.
Just bear with us. Yeah, there you go.
We're a bunch of teenagers.
Lily.
Munira. Lisa.
Ellie.
Roz.
Eden. Daisy.
Nazara. Yelena. Neve.
Zara. Samaya. And Liv.
This film is for you, for men and boys like you. We love the way that you're funny, enthusiastic, protective, supportive and caring. We love all that, but let's face it, sometimes some of you are absolute idiots.
Here's 10 things to understand.
Number 1.
Everyone, everywhere, should be able to go where they want at any time of day, wearing what they want without being harassed. If you can, why can't we?
Number 2.
In this room are 23 teenagers. When asked if they had been shouted at by men whilst walking home in school uniform, 21 of them said yes.
Yes!
Some of us are 12. Pack it in.
Number 3.
In this room there are 23 teenagers. When asked if they had been groped or physically assaulted by men, 17 of them said yes. One 15-year-old has been cornered by 2 vans and had to jump over a wall to escape. Ask yourself, where is this all heading? Are you okay with it?
Number 4. Here are 3 different people you don't want to be.
The perp, the egg it on,
the do nothing.
Now, if you're one of these men, pause, reflect, look in the mirror. If you're the perp, you need to know that sexual harassment that can include repetitive catcalling is illegal. If you're the egg it on, ease off and think about the damage you're doing. If you're the do nothing, speak up. Just move things along and get your mates to leave us alone. There are all sorts of ways you can check the behaviour of your mates before it's too late. Number 5.
Here are some of the things that we're having to do that most lads don't. Plan our route, go in pairs, keep to well-lit areas, pretend to be on a call with our dads, text on arrival, keep our mouths shut so we don't get called bossy, change how we dress, keep our heads down, feel frightened and anxious when we go out, make ourselves invisible, make ourselves small, hide the light we have just to get by.
Number 6.
That girl in the street is not just a face and a body. She is a person. Your mum has been her. Your girlfriend has been her. Your auntie, your sister, the woman you chat to at work, the girl you sit next to at school. We are her.
Number 7.
This starts young. Boys will be boys. If he hits you, he likes you. Just ignore him. If you let it go when he is 8 years old, then how will he know not to do it when he is 20? Tackle inappropriate behaviour towards girls early. Stopping the little things will stop the big things too.
Number 8.
We're not saying you can never make a joke. We're not saying you can never ask us out or pay us a compliment. We're saying pick up on the social cues. It's quite easy to tell if someone's not interested. If you make a mistake, just say sorry and move on. Jokes and compliments are only funny and kind when the person they're aimed at wants them.
Number 9.
This is a problem for boys and men. We can point you in the right direction, but in the end, you will have to actually wake up, take the step and do better. We need you to do something about it. You have to get involved.
Number 10.
If you know someone who's been catcalled and this causes them to be harassed, or if they've been assaulted, then support them in reporting it. Harassment and assault are illegal. They're crimes that can't be stopped if the police don't know about them. Don't just tell them to report it. Sit with them while they make the call.
cool. Go to someone you trust with them. Help them. The do-nothing becomes the egg-on. The egg-on becomes the catcaller. The catcaller becomes the harasser. The harasser becomes the assaulter. The assaulter becomes the rapist. The rapist becomes the killer.
Keep what we have said in your heart and in your head. This is happening to us and you can help. You can change. Think of how free we would be if people were decent to each other. Think what we all stand to lose if nothing is done.
Quite powerful, isn't it? It's hard hitting. The young people wanted it hard hitting, because the reason, if we don't make it as hard hitting as that, then it's not going to sink in, basically. So, as a result of that, like I said, we launched it on White Ribbon Day at the end of November. We're only a few weeks and we went into Christmas. We've had some of our girls, going to the schools and on the media and things like that. We sent it out and then we started collating the feedback because we wanted to test it, see what people thought. We've got our football clubs. We've got, members from Sheffield Wednesday who are here tonight as well. That's a quote from a Sheffield United one. But, they're using the films in some of their programmes. Park Academy played that video to every single pupil within their school within that first week of it being out, which I think is absolutely fantastic and a real credit to that school for doing that. We've got our safeguarding manager who used it as a discussion within their training. I could go on and on, really. There's been lots of media interest in it because it's quite a topical subject at the moment. We had one girl who went on Nuga Machesse's Radio 5 Live, so that's a national radio station. Next Tuesday night on BBC Two, there is, I can't remember the title of it, but it's a comedian who is looking at this issue as well. And so people are really, upping the ante really to get this issue addressed and see what we can do about it. The girls are saying that what they want to do is not deal with the aftermath, if you like, but they want to deal with it as right at root cause. So that is, when I said earlier I were a bit uncomfortable, I've got a son, he's in his 30s now, but I've got a son, I've got a daughter, and I remember a boy hitting my daughter and me saying, oh, it's because he fancies you, Lucy, that's what boys do. I'm talking like 25 years ago, that is something what came out of my mouth. I wouldn't dream of saying that now. But so I think, we're all guilty in one way or another, even if it is walk on by and keep his mouth shut. And I think really the only way that we can tackle this is grassroots in our communities, and everyone have a responsibility for it. What we want to try and do is we're going to have a break into little workshops because we want your ideas on what can we do next, how can we take this forward, and obviously it is quite an emotive subject, so if you want to join in, you can join in. You won't be called to do nothing if you don't get involved, and we understand that it's also might trigger things for people, and please just leave the room, do whatever it feels right for you guys. But if you do want more information, you can, if you just put in YouTube, Be That Mate, you'll find the film. If you want to email the Youth Cabinet to talk about the work that we're doing in the East Lac, you've got one there. If you want to know a bit more about the White Ribbon campaign. And then also, when I was talking about the charter, that link there is the Women and Girls Statement of Intent. So before we go into any workshops, is there any questions or anything?
I'm going to say it, but I was really astonished when you said, but we're not feminists, like that's a bad thing to be. Because quite frankly, I am a feminist, and the reason I am a feminist is because of all that shit. I was first flashed at the age of 9. The last time was last year when I was litter picking, when I was 64. That's 55 years of that sort of behaviour continuing. And it's because of that that I am a feminist. And it's feminists who raise these issues in the first place. So for you to say, but we're not feminists, is like saying, oh, but we don't want to be those horrible women. I have been married. I have a son like you. I have a son who I work very hard with to say, that isn't the way I expect you to behave with women and girls. And it's up to us as the women here to say that to all the men that we know and all the boys that we are raising and the boys that we work with, and not to say, oh, but don't worry, I'm not a feminist, because they're nasty women, aren't they? Please don't say that again in your presentation, because I am enraged by that. I'm enraged by male violence, and I am enraged by trying to pretend that women who oppose it aren't very nice. Thank you.
I apologise, because yeah. No, absolutely. I apologise. That wasn't my intention. If you ask me, I am a feminist. I have suffered this again. I can mirror, what you're saying and empathise around being flashed at and things like that. What it is, and I think the reason I said it, and I probably didn't explain it very much, is when we spoke to a few boys and oh, you're one of them. And yes, it doesn't matter, but what I don't want is it to be dismissed because they've put a label on us again.
Well, we have to get through that.
Yes, we do. And I will reword that. So, no, absolutely not, no. I had to leave the city because of domestic violence with my children. I had to change my name and everything. So it's lived with me throughout my life. So I'm extremely passionate about this subject. I am extremely passionate that my grandchildren, 2 grandsons, are not brought up thinking that it's okay.
Sarah,
so we're going to move on.
Because we need to move on. It's quite emotional. I'm sure it's triggered a lot of memories, a lot of emotions in the women in this room today. And I'm sure men as well, it would have triggered thoughts, memories, times they have intervened, times they maybe didn't intervene when they felt they should. And really we want to, talk about that, but also talk about what else can we do as individuals and as groups in our communities. So that's what you want us to do tonight, isn't it?
It is.
And every councillor is now going to go around each table or sit on a table and join in this.
So we've got 3 questions up there. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. My name's Sue from Richmond Ward. I'm really interested in what's been delivered. So, for example, in terms of the Ask Angela scheme, how long has that been running? How long has that been supported by the council? And how many venues have signed up, please, in that time?
I don't have that information, but I'm sure that we'll be able to find that information out for you. I know 6 years ago. I was going to say I know at least 3 or 4 years, so thank you. Yeah.
It's a little bit out of date then, isn't it? Presenting it as a new initiative. It's been introduced.
I didn't raise it as a new initiative. I'm just saying that things that what we have done.
Okay.
And, I've only been part of the council 2 years myself, so it's about, what is there existing already as a council, but then the important thing for me is what we are doing with our young people's voices.
There are lots of things we're doing as a council, and we can talk about that if you want, but I think we should talk about how we can, each of us can have a go at finding a solution, if there is a solution to this problem, because it's an age-old problem, isn't it? So I'd rather get on with that now, if you don't mind, if we can, because everybody wants to have a say. Thank you. You to organise us and tell us what you want us to do.
Okay, so you can stay on your tables if you want. You can move to other tables. What we will ask, if you don't mind, if there's someone there who wouldn't mind taking some notes on your table. And we just want you to go through these 3 questions, really, so that we can collect that in, because then hopefully what we can do, I mean, to me it's this last question: how can we raise more awareness? What else do we need to be doing? It's, you know, might be something else completely out of the box. Then let us know. Okay, is that all right? Thank you. And there's flip chart and pens on every table. I think the local members are going to join some of the tables as well. So, okay, thank you very much. Fantastic discussions and ideas and what we can do and what we can't do. What I will say, because a few people have asked, if you want to use this film, please use it. We're not precious about it. We've given permission, that we've got consent from all the young people and their families for it to be used nationally. So we've got police forces. The last count was 9 police forces up and down the country who are using it. So if you want to use it, please do. If you want us to come and present something or do something, you know, at one of your organisations or services or one of your schools or a meeting, get in touch. You could just email youth.cabinet@sheffield.gov.uk. That'll get through to us and we can sort that out. Just to wrap up, where's my clicker gone? Here I am. Oh, sorry, yes, that'd help. Go on, Mary, you start.
Okay, so I was on that table. A really good discussion. So is it an issue? Yeah, it is an issue, and there's many factors that put women at risk, and sometimes the design of buildings particularly can put women at risk, and people feel, you know, it's not always possible to redesign buildings, but maybe we should be conscious of that. Women feel the threat all the time, and they feel a perceived threat and fear. Talking about it to men, and they feel worried about talking about it to men, and we hope, you know, trying to get them to understand this from people's point of view and helping them call it out. With this, an online portal that the police, that's a national police portal that people can put their experiences online. How do we address it? Needs targeting to boys and girls and dads. More schools should play the video. We need to be investing in the under 10s where this can be an issue that we raise with them, and raising more awareness in men. Use social media, share video. The video, if you can do maybe a shorter version on TikTok, if that's possible. Obviously, you are involved in all the sports, some of the sports clubs in the city, so football and other sports in Sheffield, Sheffield Eagles and the Sharks. What about libraries? Maybe you should look at what we can do in libraries. Maybe we talked about a kids' book, a book targeted at young under 10s, and one maybe over 10s as well. And is there scope in the city for somebody to commission that book from a Sheffield author? We should have displays in community centres on notice boards. Also have school champions, a male champion in each school, and to make them feel as though they can be very brave and come forward. Maybe we'd need to get the sportsmen in there to act as role models as well. What can businesses do? Is the scope for the council to, when they go out to tender for contracts, have something in there about what is your policy on violence against women, what's your policy on sexual harassment, have you got a champion in your organisation? And maybe we could look at putting that into the tender process, because we do include a lot of things in tender processes, and ask them for their policy if nothing else. Look at the respect agenda, piggyback on, we've talked about sporting models and more equality in sport. We've got big opportunity now because of female football being absolutely the best in Europe, if not the world. And safe spaces to discuss things without judgment, allowed to be wrong, discuss and explain, should happen in schools, but also in other groups that, particularly youth groups, but any other groups that we can.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
If you've had the same ideas, just because of time, don't repeat it, but if we can have a few key points. So, Mary, you were on that back table there, weren't you? So, the far back table, is anything you'd like to say and feedback? It can be 1 point, whatever you want.
So, just on point number 2, what are your thoughts on addressing the issues raised? We kind of tied that in with point number 3. How do we raise more awareness amongst boys and men? Education in schools, starting as early as nursery, primary, secondary school, and workplaces. And we also discussed how social media, celebrities, people in power, role models, they can have more of an influence than family and friends sometimes because of how influential social media is these days. And such as local role models, footballers, football clubs.
And champions and that role model, yeah absolutely.
I'm just looking to see if there's anything else.
Okay.
Also, just maybe getting letters out to parents in schools. Parents of young people that are in schools. Because sometimes how family and your parents can act around you, it's not sometimes it does influence how you act.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was just a few points that we.
Thank you very much.
We covered.
Middle table.
Basically, I'll just do really quick practical things. Can the makers of the video do workshops? How widely it's been shared, so we discussed has it gone to all schools, that sort of thing. Could it be shared with families and also distributed through things like religious organisations and community groups? Another thought was about parenting classes. Apparently some schools run those, so it might be worth looking at doing workshops and things in those. And then there's just one more thing. Looking at maybe versions of the video that might be presented by men as well, because that one was mainly voiced by women, I think. And many people on the table kind of felt that the tone could actually be stronger.
Okay.
That maybe you could have one presented by men.
Interesting. Brilliant. Thank you. Bring it over here. So, Jacob and Paul. Yeah.
Something just a bit, so I'm not repeating similar things. So, being from a football club, we thought about doing like a match day campaign, showing the video on the big screen, putting something in the match programmes, getting the players to wear some of the t-shirts, like a similar campaign like how they do like chivalrous and red card match days. And then we've got contacts with like 90 plus other football clubs. So we like potentially share the video out to other football clubs and then make it a social media campaign.
Fantastic. Thank you. Emma, your table.
I think one of the main things that we touched on was education, but we did discuss the angle that a lot of the other tables have took, but also education for the teachers that are teaching PSHE lessons, because they were saying on this table that actually sometimes those teachers, because they're academic teachers and they're there to teach a specific subject, they don't necessarily take PSHE as serious as what they should do, because they don't get the education to be able to teach it. They're just given a PowerPoint and say, deliver this. So education and support for teachers around that. And then we discussed actually whether kind of initiatives such as Ask Angela and things like that are as widespread, and whether those are translatable from city centre, where we know businesses and stuff are maybe aware of it, to maybe your working men's clubs and things like that in localities. Do they both get the similar training? Are they all aware of it? Are they using it?
Okay, very interesting. Thank you. We will try and find some of the answers to some of those queries, what have been brought up about that. Just before I finish, I will get my clicker now. So, we've got 26 organisations in Sheffield who have signed up to that Violence Against Women and Girls Statement of Intent. What we want to do is every person here in this room tonight to make a pledge. You don't have to say it out loud, you don't have to write it down, but it's a pledge to you internally to go away and think about what could you do as an individual, within your family, within your community, within your workplace. What can you do to help us tackle this issue? And if you can do something, please do it. If you want to let us know about that, because I'm hoping our Sheffield Wednesday guys are going to go and do something with what they said now. I'm a Blade, but I might have to go to a Wednesday match if it's going to be on big screen. So that's the only way you're going to get me to a Wednesday match. So a bit of a challenge there for you. But yeah, go away, make it happen. You know, there's not many of us. We're a small team. So we do need everyone's support in this. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being so open and talking about it. And yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thanks, Sarah. And can you pass on our thanks to all the young people involved in this film, making the video and all the work they've put into it. I think it's been really good and very thought-provoking. And I know when we showed it to the Black Chairs group initially a few weeks before Christmas, there was a strong, quite emotional reaction. A lot came out, things that surprised me. And when I first saw it, and I still, you know, fill up when I see the video. So thanks very much for bringing it. And I hope everybody's. I know we've had really good feedback, so I know everybody's put a lot of thought into this and this very challenging problem. So thank you very much. If anybody wants to talk to councillors after the meeting, they're quite welcome to stay and have a chat. Congratulate Michael on his new post. Thank you very much. And is there any other business? No? Well, thanks everybody for coming today. Thank you.